Today, we're diving into a story that's about 2,500 years old, but its lesson is so sharp it could have been written yesterday. We're talking about the parable of the Relay Chariots, and believe me, it has this incredible way of revealing the true nature of progress.
So our story kicks off when the Buddha asks his monks a pretty simple question. Hey, who among you do you really respect for their wisdom? And right away, one name pops up with tons of praise. Puṇṇa Mantāṇiputta.
Now, get this. Listening in on all of this praise is another one of the Buddha's heavy hitters, a monk named Sāriputta. And when he hears how amazing this Puṇṇa guy is, he's genuinely intrigued. He thinks to himself, wow, I have got to meet this person and just talk with him.
Well, what do you know? It turns out Puṇṇa is meditating in a forest nearby. So Sāriputta doesn't waste any time. He goes to meet him, they exchange some pleasantries, and then he just gets straight to the point, asking about the very purpose of this whole spiritual life they're living.
Okay, so you'll want to pay close attention here, because this is where the conversation takes a totally fascinating turn. Sāriputta starts asking what you'd think are pretty obvious questions, but Puṇṇa's answers, well, they're not what anyone would expect.
So Sāriputta starts with the foundation, the absolute basics. He asks, "Friend, are we doing all this for the sake of purifying our conduct? Is the whole point just to become a perfectly ethical person?"
And Puṇṇa's answer? A flat-out, simple no. Just like that.
Okay, so Sāriputta is probably a little thrown by that. He moves on to the next logical thing. All right then, he asks, is it for the purification of the mind? Is the end goal all about getting perfect concentration, a totally clear mind through meditation?
And, you guessed it, another firm no. That's not the ultimate reason either.
So Sāriputta just keeps going, right? He runs down this whole checklist of advanced spiritual states. Is it to get your understanding just right? To get rid of all doubt? To know the path inside and out? To gain ultimate insight? And for every single one, Puṇṇa gives the exact same steady answer. No, no, and no. At this point, you can imagine Sāriputta is just baffled. I mean, he's just laid out the entire curriculum for spiritual development, and Puṇṇa has shot down every single milestone as the final goal. So he has to ask, well, if it's not for any of those things, then what on earth is the point? And this is where Puṇṇa finally reveals the true destination. He says the holy life is lived for anupada parinibbāna. In simple terms, it's for the final, complete liberation without a single trace of clinging left. It's a state of absolute freedom, of ultimate peace.
Okay, so that clears up the what, but it brings up a huge how, right? Sāriputta is sharp, and he pushes a little further. He asks, "Friend, can you even get to that final goal without going through all those purification stages you just said no to? Are they just useless then?"
And once again, Puṇṇa says, nope, you can't. Which creates this fantastic puzzle, doesn't it? These stages aren't the final goal, but you absolutely cannot reach the final goal without them. So how does that work?
So how does he explain this? Well, he doesn't launch into some dense philosophical lecture. Instead, he tells this absolutely brilliant story, a parable.
He says, picture this. You've got a king, King Paññā, and he needs to get from one city, Sāvatthi, to another, Saketa. And it's urgent business. He has to get there as fast as humanly possible. Now, he's not going to take one horse and buggy for the whole trip. That would be way too slow. The horses would get exhausted. Nope. He's got a clever system set up, a relay. He's arranged for 7 fresh chariots to be waiting at 7 different stations along the road. At each station, he just hops out of the tired one and into the fresh one.
So when the king finally pulls up to the palace, all dusty from the road, and his ministers come out and ask him, "Your Majesty, did that chariot right there bring you all the way from the capital?" What's the right answer? How would he explain it?
And this is the masterstroke. This is how that simple story perfectly unlocks the whole puzzle that Puṇṇa laid out earlier.
Of course, the king isn't just going to point to the 7th chariot he's standing in and say, yep, this one did all the work. That's just not true. He'd have to explain the whole relay system. He'd say, well, I took the first chariot to get to the second, and the second to get to the third, and so on. See, each chariot was absolutely crucial for its part of the journey, but its only purpose was to get him to the next one.
And boom. That's the spiritual path in a nutshell. Perfect conduct isn't the final goal, but it's the chariot you need to get to a purified mind. A purified mind is the chariot that gets you to a purified view, and on it goes.
Each stage is just a vehicle, a totally necessary tool to get you to the next station, until that very last chariot, knowledge and vision, finally delivers you to the true destination, liberation.
I mean, after an explanation like that, Sāriputta is just blown away, absolutely floored by the clarity and wisdom. He's so impressed that he has to ask the monk for his name.
And when Puñña reveals who he is, Sāriputta can't believe it. He's overjoyed. But then the tables turn. Puñña asks for Sāriputta's name, and when he finds out, he's just as stunned. They've been talking to the very masters they each admired so much, without even knowing it. They just shower each other with praise for their incredible wisdom.
So the big takeaway from all this, the lesson that's just as true today as it was 2,500 years ago is this. In any big project you're working on, in your career, your personal growth, whatever, there are stages. Each stage is vital, but its real purpose is to get you to the next one. The crucial point is, don't ever mistake the vehicle for the destination.
And that really leaves us with a powerful question to ask ourselves, doesn't it? In our own journey, right now, what chariot are we riding? And more importantly, are we maybe holding onto it a little too tightly, thinking this part of the journey is the whole entire trip?